How is the use of social media contributing to digital transformations in fabric of everyday life? Well, currently, obviously, as you've read on my current blog, on my 2,000 word report, little thing that I did, I took a couple of stuff, I looked up so I can judgment my argument, and I looked it all up and gathered some information so then I can argue my points and reference them towards this question. Basically, I looked up currently the impact of social media in our daily lives. An interesting thing that I found out was Linguada Greca, which is a site which shows like the digital transformations within everyday life, and it's got some arguments and opinions which I took references for and which I kind of agree with. They put that a decade ago it was very difficult to find and connect with people that you once knew in high school or college, even with the power of the web, which I agree with. If you go back about 10 years or so ago, it was hard to connect with people and get to meet up with people and all that, because obviously you didn't have the power of social media, so it wasn't really impacting back then, because obviously the internet back then was expensive and not many people had internet. If you look back in the late 90s when it was first rolled out, not many people had it, because obviously there was around about I think I looked up about 1.5 million users compared to what it was now, which nearly everyone around the world is currently using social media. It impacts in good ways and bad ways, which I have wrote up. If you have read the blog which I did, I said about it changing in a good way, because you can connect with people. You can easily connect with people around the world. Like if you use Facebook or if you use Twitter, you can quickly get different social media aspects from there. And obviously if you use Facebook, you can connect with people from all around the world, so it's easy to connect. It's just a click away, something which wasn't there about early 2000s, late 90s. Like I did put in the report that there was only one site which kick-started social media, but it wasn't as much as an impact until MySpace came in 2004. It was just a little website which was set up in 1998, which lasted till 2001. It did have an impact as such. It did have 2.5 million subscribers, people that were subscribed to the site, which I did add on. And it did have a medium impact until MySpace and Facebook came around in 2004, but it wasn't much of a success due to not many people being on the internet, so it didn't really impact many lives. I did put quite a lot of negatives towards social media, which you've read up. Obviously I referenced quite a lot of stuff from cyberbullying to body shaming because of Photoshop, like stuff gets brushed. And then obviously what you see in magazines and that is not actually what them people actually look like. It's actually been edited in Photoshop, airbrushed, and then they've digitally transformed it, which obviously impacts people's mental health and what that for like body shaming, and obviously it takes people's self-esteem down, so that's a bad aspect of social media. But there is quite a lot of positives which I did put down. I mainly did the bad part of social media, but there's quite a lot of good points towards social media impacting from, like I said, you can easily connect with people, you can get in touch with them from around the world. Like say if you have parents in Norway or somewhere and you were here in the UK, you can easily just connect. Obviously you didn't have that like 10-15 years ago. You didn't have that. You had to meet up in person to arrange to meet up again. Obviously you did have mobile phones that were massive bricks, but obviously it was expensive to call someone. You couldn't text on the massive brick phones. It was just calling, and it was expensive, so not many people had it compared to like mobile phones like today, which has everything from the internet. You can get on Twitter, Facebook, it has everything. But if you look like 10 years ago, about 10-15 years ago, we didn't have this. So you didn't have social media. You could only access social media from a massive brick computer, so you didn't have access to everything that you have today from Facebook. You've got Twitter, you can get Instagram, you basically, it's got everything on the internet. You can literally, it's changed people's lives so much. Literally, most people, mainly young people, cannot put phones down. They're constantly glued to them. That's another bad aspect, because people get addicted to it and they can't put it down, and they're always on social media. It's made a massive impact to quite a lot of people. Like I said, people can get addicted to it. And obviously, especially people that are like under 21, well, mainly teenagers. You see people nowadays like 6-year-olds that have like the newest technology, the newest phone that's just come out, and it's just like, how's that going to impact? what does a six-year-old need with a mobile phone, and what is a six-year-old doing on social media? This is what links into something else which I did mention and reference from something that I found online about safety of minors. Now, in my own opinion, you shouldn't be allowing people under 16 to use social media, which I've already gone through. If you've read through the 2,000 word report that I did, I basically said that people under 16 shouldn't do it because basically you're protecting minors, and obviously with cyberbullying and everything that goes on within the bad things of social media and all that, it all leads down to mental health, and people under 16 shouldn't need social media. They shouldn't need to, fair enough if they're like 13 and you give them like a mobile phone, but these like 5-6-year-olds that have got like iPhone 10s that have come out, and the new Samsung phone, it's not needed, because why does a like 6-7-year-old need to access the internet, and why do they need social media at that age? Because it's just not needed, which I did obviously referencing and linking with some other things which I did find online. Now, marketing is another thing which has impacted quite a lot of companies via social media. Obviously, marketing companies and employers use it, which I did put on about LinkedIn. Employers use that to find people and look through the CVs. It's an easy way to access, which that came along about 10 years ago. That's an easy way to access, like you can put your CV on there. Employers do actively use it to find out your interests, your CV. Instead of sending a CV via email and all that, the employees can contact you through LinkedIn. So that's a marketing thing for them to easily access thing. And obviously the social media sites are ripe for marketing and endeavours as well. And over the past few years, users have picked up like different techniques to marketing, which can go through, they can set up a Facebook page. They market through that, and they set up their own websites, and they market through that, and they sell products and that via the website, something which wasn't available on social media about 10 years or so ago. That it's all been rolled out that you could do that. So that's something else which has impacted employers. It means they can get their products out there more efficiently and more quickly. It's something which they couldn't do. Entertainment is another thing which has rolled out, which has been quite popular. This is another thing that links in with the addiction and people, it being bad for everyday life, and how it's digitally transformed, is YouTube. This is something which everyone accesses. Literally, there's over 500 million users that watch YouTube every single day. If you go back 7 years ago, there was only 100 million, so it's more than tripled the amount of users and people using YouTube in the last 10 years. So this is digitally transformed because of the more, basically YouTube has everything you want on there from content. It's what employees can use to market the products. It's music videos go on there, for people doing everything is on there. You search for it, YouTube is more than likely got it. This is something which has had a big impact on everyday life, and it is transforming every day. So you can see how it's transformed from 10 years ago, from when Google first rolled out, and then you've got Netflix, which is like competing with them. So it's currently changing. I think it's changing for the good, but for the worse. Obviously, there's the good points and the bad points, which I have briefed out in both of them. But obviously, in conclusion, in my opinion, I think obviously social media it's having a really big impact, but it's having an impact on health, because obviously people just constantly, they can't put phones down, some people, and it can affect your health just constantly staring at a screen day in and day out. I've seen people there in classes and that literally, there's like a 2-hour lecture and someone's just there constantly on the phone like this, tapping away, and they just take no notice to it. So obviously it has impacted quite a lot, and like I said, it's just going to transform more and more. Obviously with other things that are rolling out, so we'll just have to see from how it goes from there. But obviously, as I said, digital transformation, that's all that I've researched and that I have looked into how it's changing social media and the everyday life, and the digital transformations that include into that.